Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Muhammad Athahabi, edited by Adil Falahi. Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Uthman Athahabi was a scholar of Hadith and history. Being of Turkmen origin, he was born in Damascus in 673 after Hijrah, corresponding to Common Era 1275. His grandfather was a carpenter, but his father changed profession so had to work in the fine gold industry. That is how he derived his family name Athahabi, which means golden or working in gold. The father excelled in his new profession, but also pursued his studies until he attained a distinguished position among scholars. Muhammad ibn Athahabi grew up in a family which appreciated scholarship and encouraged its members to give it their full attention. He noticed that his father spent much of his evening pursuing the study of hadith and other disciplines, and also both his maternal uncle and paternal aunt were scholars of hadith. In such a family which loved scholarship and pursued it with diligence, it was natural that the bright boy Muhammad al-Dahabi should be inclined to the pursuit of learning, and this was indeed what he did throughout his life. At the age of 9, and after having spent 4 years in an elementary school, al-Dahabi moved to study the Quran and its recitation under Masud ibn Abdullah, an imam in the Saur district in Damascus. This teacher was very kind to children learning the Quran and never resorted to corporal punishment. Under his supervision, al-Dahabi read the Quran not less than 40 times, acquiring a very high standard of knowledge and perfection of recitation in its various methods. At the age of 18, al-Dahabi started to seek the top authorities in the various disciplines of Islamic studies to read under them in their different specialties. Thus, he read the whole Quran in its most famous 7 methods of recitation under Ibn Jibril al-Masri, who lived in Damascus. When he finished it, he started another reading in all authorized methods under Ibrahim ibn Dawood al-Asqalani, the top scholar in this field. He completed nearly 2/3 of the Quran and stopped. There must have been a good reason for stopping, because he pursued this branch of study still further in his extensive travel, reading the Quran in various methods under An-Nushaybi, a scholar of wide fame in this particular area. However, it was to Hadith that al-Dahabi paid his greatest attention, studying many books and collections by the highest authorities. He met a very large number of Hadith teachers, showing an unrivaled keenness to listen to Hadith from different authorities. Indeed, he described himself as having unsatisfied hunger in his pursuit of Hadith learning. It is estimated that the number of scholars from whom he learned Hadith might have topped 1,200. His pursuit of Hadith took him on extensive travel in the area of Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. Al-Dahabi was 26 when he returned from Egypt to Damascus after numerous journeys devoted to scholarship. He soon had a teaching circle in the main mosque in the city and acquired in no time wide fame as a scholar of immense knowledge. But he continued to pursue his studies and began to write and edit some books by major scholars. He studied under several scholars of the Hanbali school of thought, following its approach to matters of faith, but he was known as belonging to the Shafi school of thought in matters of fiqh or Islamic jurisprudence. During his lifetime, he succeeded in teaching in many famous schools, such as succeeding Imam Ibn Taymiyyah as the head of the Sharia school, and then he joined teaching at Darul Hadith and still later at An-Nafisiyya school. Athahabi's approach to learning shows his profound faith and devotion to teaching and learning. He comes out clearly as an advocate of the principle that makes teaching and imparting knowledge a duty of the scholar. To conceal knowledge is to him a cardinal sin. He bases his argument on Quranic verses such as Surah number 2, ayat number 159 and Surah number 3 and ayat number 187, as well as several hadiths which threaten with great suffering anyone who willfully conceals knowledge. He also makes it clear that a scholar must have a clearly honest intention, making sure that by his pursuit of knowledge he aims at nothing more than pleasing God and spreading knowledge. He must never pursue knowledge in order to gain any worldly advantage, whether financial or other privileges. It is sufficient for a scholar to please God through learning and teaching. He frequently mentions the hadith which speaks of a scholar who is held to account on the day of judgment, and when he claims before God that he learned in order to spread knowledge of God, he is told that he is lying and is thrown in hell. His intention is recounted to him, and his learning is shown to have been nothing other than gaining high reputation. Furthermore, a scholar is expected to implement his learning in practical life. In this connection, he explains his argument, citing the hadith which quote the Prophet as saying, "A bad scholar may be brought up on the day of judgment and thrown in hell, where he is made to turn round in circles just like an ass pulling a mill." He is asked, "How come this is done to you when you used to admonish us, and in fact we have followed the right path only because of your admonition?" He says that he used to admonish people but not to implement his own teaching and admonition. Athahabi wrote extensively on the importance of scholarly honesty in all its aspects. He provides guidelines on how to distinguish a trustworthy scholar from those who are unreliable. He adds to that the importance of accuracy and taking every care to ensure that whatever one says is accurate and relies on solid evidence. Much of the work of Athahabi has gone to producing summarized versions of highly acclaimed books which ran in several volumes. Thus, he summarized Baghdad history by Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, a history of Damascus by Ibn Asakir, the history of Naisapur by Al-Hakim, as well as his own history book known by the title The History of Islam. He summarized other famous works on Hadith as well as Ibn Hazm al-Muhalla. Al-Dahabi felt that scholarship should be first and foremost directed to serve Islam, first by providing knowledge and also by implementing it. Thus, when learning is used for a different purpose, it loses its value. When a scholar who has taken care to learn all the methods of reciting the Quran pays much attention to demonstrate his knowledge by repeating the verse several times, stressing the differences and highlighting the weaker version, he is unlikely to benefit by his recitation. His mind is drifting from thinking about what he reads to the way he produces it. Quranic learning should be sought to strengthen one's faith and earn reward from God. Similarly, any discipline learned to increase one's reputation and gain personal advantage takes knowledge away from its rightful purpose to make it a means to worldly gain. Learning should be sought in order to enhance one's position in the hereafter, which means, in effect, that it should be always placed at the service of God's cause. At-Dahabi has clear view about various disciplines. To him, the main sources of fiqh are the Quran and the Hadith. He rejects the addition of other disciplines such as logic, philosophy, and the like as sources of Islam. To him, neither logic nor philosophy is of any use in learning or explaining the religion of Islam. He derived the idea of closing the door of scholarly discretion in matters of religion. But such discretion should always be based on the Quran and the Hadith. Al-Dahabi lost his eyesight sometime before his death in 748 at the age of 75. May God bless his soul. Chapter number 2, ayat number 159. Chapter 3, ayat number 187. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.